So when I used to run my web design and marketing agency, we would basically just work with people who had the budget and we thought were kind of interesting and might look good on our portfolio. But when you think long term, if you do too many of these projects where people go, oh yeah, the branding looks great, but it doesn't really get them the outcome that they want, eventually that's going to impact your business in a negative way. I started to understand and learn this idea of perfect fit clients. And once you figure this out, it really transforms your business because it transforms the results that you are able to get for clients consistently. And more importantly, it builds a huge amount of positive brand recognition. This is honestly one of the most important aspects of defining our perfect fit or our ideal clients. So the first big idea, the first concept is Hey, it's Matt Essam here. Welcome to another episode of the Creative Courage podcast, where we talk about how to build a studio that gives you more freedom, fulfillment, and financial security. In today's episode, I want to talk to you about the idea of finding perfect fit clients and why that's so important. When I'm coaching creative studio owners, I often tell them that all value isn't created equal. And what I mean by that is you could take two businesses through your process and do the exact same thing with each business. And one would get huge amounts of value and have a transformation, and then the other wouldn't really get any results at all. And this is something that took me years and years to work out. So when I used to run my web design and marketing agency, we would basically just work with people who had the budget and we thought were kind of interesting and might look good on our portfolio. And it took me a while, and it took me quite a few years and quite a few different projects and kind of building case studies to realize that we were doing the exact same thing with, say, this yoga studio that we were with this fintech brand. And the fintech brand was raising investment. They were generating millions in revenue and getting new users, and the yoga studio didn't really change. And so I started to understand and learn this idea of perfect fit clients. So the kind of clients that when you work with them, they have a high chance of success. And once you figure this out, it really transforms your business because it transforms the results that you are able to get for clients consistently. It transforms the kind of case studies that you are able to share with people. And more importantly, it builds a huge amount of positive brand recognition in the market. Those people who get great results go and tell their friends, and it kind of snowballs. And it really means that you have a business that you feel really confident can deliver significant, tangible, measurable results for clients. So in this episode, I want to talk a little bit about how we find those clients, what we're looking for specifically, and more importantly, how we qualify them to make sure that they meet that criteria. So the first big idea, the first concept that you need to understand, or we need to understand, is that what creates results for one client might not create results for another client. And so the way that I think about it and the way that I tell other people to think about it is this concept of only being paid once you deliver the outcome that your client wants. So let's use the web design example. Now, when I was building websites for people, they wanted a new website, but that wasn't the ultimate outcome that they wanted. That wasn't why they wanted that website. And so when I think about the actual result that they wanted, so in the fintech business example, it was they wanted to raise funds and they felt like this website was going to portray them in a way that was like very professional and that it was going to help them to raise that investment. With the yoga studio, they basically were kind of bored of their old website and just wanted a new one. And at this time, we were basically charging the same price to both of those businesses, which in hindsight seems a little bit crazy, but at the time it felt like the right thing to do. They were basically the same size websites. So they had the same number of pages. We spent the same amount of time on the design, all of that kind of stuff. And so when I started to look at that, and when I really started to think about, like, imagine if I only got paid when I got the outcome. And in the studio owner's case, I didn't know this at the time, but when I went back to interview them and talked about their real goals and what they were hoping the website brought them, it was really like more bookings. They wanted more people to kind of book onto their classes. They wanted it to be an easier experience for them. They wanted to look more professional to attract a higher caliber of client. So if I imagine that I was only going to get paid once I help them to generate that, once I help them to get more bookings, once I help them to attract a high caliber of clients, what are some of the attributes or things that they would need to have in place in order for me to feel pretty confident that they were going to pay me or that I was going to get paid based on that outcome? And it started to change the way that I qualified people. So I'll give you a really tangible example. One of the things that I realized when we were building websites was that if the website didn't have a lot of existing traffic, then the design and everything that we did wasn't really going to have that much impact. This idea that just because your website looks amazing, well, if no one's really seeing it, then what difference does it make? It makes the founder happy because they feel more confident about their website and handing out business cards or putting it on their social media, but it's not really going to translate into sales. It's not really going to translate into more bookings. So that's like a really tangible example that I realized that if I work with people, if I build their websites or redesign their websites, then they need to have a certain level of traffic already in order for the work that we do to really have the impact or the outcome that they want. Another thing was they had to have people in place. Like let's say they wanted more bookings or they wanted more clients, for example, they had to have people internally that could follow up with inquiries and that could follow up with people who maybe booked on and wanted to change their dates and things like that. A lot of the businesses I was working with at the time really wanted their website to be a magic wand. Like it was going to do their marketing, it was going to do their branding, it was going to book more leads, it was going to close those deals. And they kind of had these ideas and these expectations about what that website was going to bring. So I really started to kind of flesh out this concept of a perfect fit client. Like what are all of the things that they would have to have in place? Now, sometimes when I ask my clients this, creative studio owners, they say things to me like, oh, they would need to have a budget. And I get that. That's kind of a given. But one of the reasons that I'm asking this question in the context of only being paid once you deliver the result is I kind of want to take money out of the equation for a second because it does complicate things. I'm not just talking about do they have a budget. What I'm talking about is what other attributes do they have to have. So think about your service. Maybe you're like an animation studio and you make explainer videos. Well, that explainer video might be incredible. You might be really good at taking a complex idea and breaking it down into like a really simple structure that people understand. But if that video isn't seen by anyone or it's not put in the right place or they don't run paid ads to it or whatever, then it's not really going to be effective. So what are some of the things that that client or that business needs to have in place in order for the process that you take them through, in order for the product that you sell to be effective? And this is honestly one of the most important aspects of defining our perfect fit or our ideal clients. A lot of people talk about the idea of big name brands, like, oh, I'd love to work with this big brand, or, oh, I want to work with people who share my values and things like this. That is super important, but it's not as important as the criteria that you need to be really clear on that impacts the results that you get for these clients. So it's a little bit like I went to a water park this weekend for my birthday, which is coming up. I'm almost 36 and I still love water parks. I don't know if there's something wrong with me, but I just love like slides and flumes and stuff like that. And there was this one particular slide and you had to be a certain weight to go on it because it was something to do with, you know, like the gravity obviously on the slide. And if the whole kind of ring didn't weigh that amount, then you were basically too light to go on the ride and you had to jump in with somebody else. And I kind of think of your perfect fit clients a little bit like this. Like, what are the safety limits? Like, what do they have to have in order to go on the ride? What are the qualifying criteria that they need to have in order to actually get the result, or in order to really be likely to get that result that they want by working with you, by spending that money? And you know, I won't go too much into this in this episode because it's a whole different topic, but then really thinking about what do they want beyond the brand, beyond the animation, beyond the website? What is it that they actually are hoping that this thing that you deliver is going to get them, and getting very, very clear on that, and getting very clear on the expectations of whether what you do is likely to get them more of that. And if it's not, then what do they need to have their end in order to make sure that it does work? And I know this can be a bit scary because sometimes a client comes along, they've got a great budget, and you're like, well, we haven't had a project this size in a while, so this would be amazing. It would boost our revenue. It'd look great on our portfolio. But when you think long term, if you do too many of these projects where people go, oh yeah, the branding looks great, but it doesn't really get them the outcome that they want, then eventually that's going to impact your business in a negative way. Because what I can say from being on both sides of this, from being someone who's purchased services and somebody who's sold those services, is often we have these unspoken expectations and we have these things that we want in our head that we don't always articulate to that other person. And that's why we have something called the one-page sales framework, which we use in our sales conversations to ensure that we really get clear on what those expectations are, what those goals are, what those challenges are, and really have a powerful conversation to ensure that those expectations are aligned and to ensure that we're actually going to get the clients the results that they want. By the way, if you want to grab a copy of that, you can head over to my LinkedIn profile. Just Google my name, Matt Essam, Essam, and it's in my LinkedIn bio, or you can just Google the one-page sales framework and my name, and you can download that for free. It has been transformational for a lot of our clients. It's enabled them to position themselves as partners rather than workers. It's enabled them to double, sometimes even triple what they charge without really changing the work that they do. So it's an incredibly powerful framework. I will also put that in the link in the show notes below so you can grab a copy. So this has been about your ideal client criteria. What is the qualification criteria you need to use to be confident that you're actually going to get the results that your client is looking for? If you found this episode valuable, as always, please hit that subscribe button and share it with a friend. You're listening to the Creative Courage Podcast. My name is Matt Essam.